Also here, they have grown considerably up to the crisis. They have fallen also during the crisis, but recovered quickly and steadily, and have already surpassed the pre-crisis level, again, forming a V pattern. External vulnerabilities indicators also see a significant decrease here. All of them do, and show a quite solid recovery. The next figure should show investment year over year. Again, the same pattern of V pattern of recovery from the crisis as the next slide, which refers to GDP growth. It keeps coming up again and again. And the next one refers to consumer credit. The V pattern shape, again, shows here, as does in the next one, I'm sorry, that portrays industrial production. The next slide should show the contribution of internal demand to GDP. And again here in Brazil, we see how significant was, as in other BRIC countries, the role of domestic demand in allowing for a quick and steady recovery from the crisis. The next one shows retail sales, and we can go quickly here. Unemployment. Again, unemployment was not very high. Obviously, it did increase during the crisis years, but again, it recovered quickly, and it has already reached pre-crisis levels. The next slide refers to exchange rate. As I said, there was a quite severe devaluation of the real during the crisis years. The dollar reached, I don't know, it went almost close to 3, if I remember correctly. Well, it shows here, it's a 2.5. But it did, again, right after fall relative to the real. The real now is actually overvalued, and that's another problem that will be dealt in another panel in this event. The next slide shows foreign investment flows, and again, the same pattern emerging. They did recover quickly into the pre-crisis levels in 2005. So, after all these graphs, let me try to draw out some lessons and conclusions from the BRIC experience with the crisis. The financial sector is clearly crucial to economic development, and it serves as an intermediary between savers and investors. That's clear. However, the crisis shows that there is a risk that this financial sector can take up an autonomous existence of its own and become disconnected from the real economy, and thereby become a real threat to the real economy. And that's what seems to have happened, particularly in the United States, but in the countries affected by, many countries affected by the crisis as a whole. Secondly, and particularly with reference to the BRIC, domestic demand has proven to be not only a very important engine of economic growth, but also a shield against external shocks during the crisis. And that's something that needs to be pondered on. And finally, we see that in general, the BRIC banking system has been quite solid and has resisted the financial crisis. However, as these countries are implementing initiatives to reform their financial systems, they should consider the risks of liberalization, so that, not that they should not liberalize, but be careful so that liberalization does not allow risk to creep in disguised. And also in the regulation of foreign banks, because foreign banks, for two reasons, they are harder to supervise, and they also may constitute a channel of contamination of foreign markets into national economies during times of crisis. And I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, André. We now will hear Professor Andrei Melville from the Higher School of Economics, Moscow. Professor Andrei, please. Depois do professor Andrei, a gente vai dar abrir o debate ao público. Obrigado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's an honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight. And let me start by reminding you the words of the rector of the PUC when he said that the academic community of Brazil is all in favor of exchanges between students and professors and et cetera, et cetera. And as I'm coming from the leading socioeconomic and political science university in Moscow, I should admit that we do not have even one Brazilian student. And as far as I understand, not a single student from our university visited Brazil. And about several months ago, when we were chatting with Professor Nogueira in Montreal, we were talking about the possibility of starting such exchanges. One more preliminary remark. I take the liberty of being not always necessarily politically correct, and I will not deal with economic hard data. I will deal with perceptions and ideas of policy options. And as I believe I belong to a particular wing in the Russian political spectrum, my political and ideological position might be expressed in what I will be saying. So I'm trying to concentrate not so much on economic responses, but on perceptions and policy options, and I will deal with the way how BRICS are seen in a Russian mirror. And in a way, I will try to deal with the way how Russia might be seen in a BRICS mirror. I will deal with three major topics. How the BRIC as an association and the BRICS countries are perceived in Russia today by various groups of experts and public opinion. Secondly, how Russia today can be better understood through the BRICS experience. And thirdly, what are the alternatives of the Russian future, and what can the BRICS experience tell us about these alternatives? So first of all, something about the Russian perceptions of the BRICS. They are sometimes very contrasting. If you look at the public and official statements, they are all alike probably in most of our countries. President Medvedev, in his recent statement, I'm confident that cooperation among our countries has a great future. Sergei Lavrov, who was mentioned 3 times already during the morning session, said, our association, that is BRICS, has qualitatively changed over the years since the BRICS summit in Brasilia. Its international prestige and influence have strengthened. All these are very nice, very general, very evasive and elusive statements. At the same time, I should say that on the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, there emerged a new webpage, the BRICS webpage, which provides different positions and different discussions about the BRICS as the association and about different countries belonging to this association. If we look at the expert level of political and economic knowledge in Russia, I am prepared to say that the expert community is pretty much split in Russia. There are those influential members of this expert community